Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Before anything else, let me introduce to you the reporters of this topic. So we have Miss Janina Galinato. She is the one who will tackle what is an abstract all about and the psychological meaning of colors. Next, we have Miss Angeline Suelo, and she is the one who will discuss the abstract artist and the shades and shadows. Then we have Miss Cathy Rose de la Serna, who will report about the interpretation of abstract art. Also, we have Miss Jessa A. Wans, who is in charge in elaborating what is visual art all about. At the same time, the colors. While on the other hand, we have Miss Angel Payat, who will tackle about the principle of art. Lastly, Mr. Jared P. Birangoy is the one who is in charge to discuss the principle of abstract art and the elements of art.
Good day everyone, I am Janina Joy Hintelian Galinato, BTEL Ed 2, major in Home Economics. So for today's discussion, we will discuss about the topic 4, abstract art. But before that, let me read first the learning objectives. Learning objectives. At the end of this lesson, students are expected to identify what is abstract art and its form, enumerate the principles of abstract art, familiarize the famous artist of abstract art and its contribution, and know the importance of psychological meaning of each colors in abstract art. So what is abstract art? Abstract art is an art that does not attempt to represent an accurate depiction of a visual reality, but it's instead use shapes, colors, forms, and gestural marks to achieve its effect. Wesley Candice Kai Cossacks, 1910, states, strictly speaking, the word abstract means to separate or withdraw something from something else.
Thank you so much, Miss Gina Galinato. At this very moment, let me discuss the principle of abstract art. First, we have balance. Balance is one of the basic principles of design, along with the contrast, movement, rhythm, emphasis, pattern, unity, and variety. It refers to how the elements of art, such as line, shape, color, value, space, form, texture relate to each other within the composition in terms of their visual weight to create visual equilibrium. In other words, when we talk about balance, it is the distribution of visual weight of objects, colors, texture, and space. It is important in the art knowing that a balanced work in which the visual weight is distributed evenly across the composition seems stable, makes the viewer feel comfortable, and is pleasing to the eye. There are three main types of balance that are used in art and design. First, we have symmetrical. Second, we have asymmetrical. And the third one is radial. When we talk about symmetrical balance, it is when both sides of a piece are equal nor almost identical. So when we talk about symmetrical balance, it can be established by drawing an imaginary line through the center of work, either horizontally or vertically, and making each half identically or very visually similar. This kind of balance creates a sense of order, stability, rationality, solemnity, and formality. The Last Supper by Italian Renaissance painter Leonardo da Vinci in 1452 to 1519 is one of the best well-known examples of an artist's creative use of symmetrical balance. Da Vinci uses the compositional device of symmetrical balance and linear perspective to stress the importance of central figure, the Jesus Christ. There is slight variation among the figures themselves, but there is the same number of figures on either side, and they are situated along the same horizontal axis. Next, we have asymmetrical balance. The two sides of a composition are not the same but appear to have an equal visual weight nonetheless. To be exact, asymmetrical balance is a bit more difficult to achieve than symmetrical balance because each element of art has its own visual weight related to the other elements and affects the whole composition. It is also less formal and more dynamic than symmetrical because it may appear more casual, but it takes careful planning. For example, a symmetrical balance is Vincent van Gogh, The Starry Night in 1889. The dark triangular shape of the trees visually anchoring the left side of the painting is counterbalanced by the yellow circle of the moon in the upper right corner. Then lastly, we have radial symmetry. It's a variation of symmetrical balance in which the elements are arranged equally around a central point. In other words, radial symmetry has a strong focal point and often seen in nature as in the petals of the tulip, the seeds of the dandelion, or in a certain marine life, such as jellyfish. It is also seen in religious art and sacred geometry, as a mandalas and the contemporary art. An example for this is the target with 4 faces in 1955 by the American painter Jasper Johns. In short, balance is an important principle to hit, for it communicates so much about work of art and can contribute to overall effect, making a composition dynamic and lively or restful and calm. Now let us proceed to the next principle of abstract art, which is the emphasis. It is used to attract a viewer's attention to the focal point or main subject of an artwork. For example, in a portrait, the artist usually wants you to see the subject face first, so the artist will use color, contrast, and placement to direct where your eye is attracted. Subordination is used to describe the secondary or accent elements of the artwork. While artists emphasize the focal point, they can also de-emphasize the other elements to ensure the main subject stands out. For instance, in a portrait painting, the artist usually wants you to see the person face first. They will use the techniques such as color, contrast, and placement to make sure that this area is where your eye is attracted to first. Otherwise, an artist may use red on the subject while leaving the rest of the painting in very muted brown. The viewer eye is automatically drawn to this pop of color. Then we have the third principle, which is movement. It is one of the principles which makes an artwork interesting that guide the viewer eyes to move from one part of the artwork. It can also create illusion that resultant painting, although stationary, depicts movement or sometimes looks like it is moving. Movement is one of the principle of art, and it gives life to the artwork by drawing and pushing attention from one part of the painting to another. When a person sees an artwork, his eyes usually roam over the painting. An artist consciously an impression created in the artwork which depicts action or motion is called movement in art. The artwork which we create is motionless and cannot move, but we can make it so that it gives the viewers the impression that it is moving. An artist creates an impression of movement in his artwork by arranging the elements of art. The arrangement of brush strokes in such a way can create movement. In art, usually use various elements and principles to move the attention to multiple parts of the picture visually. Next, the fourth one, we have proportion. It is the principle of art that describes the size, location, or amount of one element in relation to another. They have a great deal to do with the overall harmony of an individual piece and our perception of the art. Proportion has a very similar definition but tends to refer to the relative size of parts within a whole. For example, if you are painting a portrait of a dog and a person, the dog should be at the correct scale in relation to the person. Essentially, scale and proportion help the viewer make sense of the artwork. It is something seems off, then it can be disturbing because it's unfamiliar. Yet, artists can use this to their advantage, as well some artists purposely distort proportion to give the work a certain feel or to relay a message. The photomontage work of Hannah Hodge is a great example. Much of her work is commentary or issues, and she bluntly plays with scale and proportion to emphasize her point. Then the fifth one, we have rhythm. It is a principle of art that can be difficult to describe in words. We can easily recognize rhythm in music because it is the underlying beat that we hear. In art, we can try and translate the thing into something that we see in order to understand an artwork visual beat. A pattern has rhythm, but not all rhythm has a pattern. For example, the colors of a piece can convey rhythm by making your eyes travel from one component to another. Lines can produce a rhythm by implying movement. Forms too can cause rhythm by the ways in which they place one next to another. Really, it is easier to see rhythm in just about anything other than the visual art. This is particularly true for those of us who tend to take things literally. Yet, if we study art, we can find a rhythm in a style, technique, brush strokes, colors, and patterns that artists used. So we have the three artists and the three different rhythms. A great example of this is the artwork of Jackson Pollock. His work has a very bold rhythm, almost chaotic like what you might find in electronic dancehall music. The beat of his paintings came from the actions he made to create them, slinging paint over the canvas in the way he did. He created a mad flurry of motion that pumps, and he never gives the viewer a break for this. Next, we have more traditional painting techniques also have rhythm. Vincent van Gogh, The Starry Night in 1889, has a rhythm. Thanks to the swirling, well-defined brush strokes he used throughout, which create a pattern without being typically think of as a pattern. Van Gogh's piece has a more subtle rhythm than Pollock, but it still has a fantastic beat. And lastly, we have on the other end of the spectrum, an artist like Grant Wood has a very soft rhythm in his work. His work palette tends to very subtle, and he uses patterns in almost every piece of work. In landscape like Young Corn in 1931, Wood uses a pattern to depict rows in a farm field, and his trees have a fluffy quality that creates a pattern. Even the shapes of the rolling hills in the painting repeat to create a pattern. And lastly, we have the translating these three artists into music will help you recognize the rhythm. While Pollock has that electronic vibe, Van Gogh has more of a jazzy rhythm, and Wood is more like a soft concerto. Next principle of abstract art, we have unity. It is a principle in art that refers to a set of compositional strategies used by an artist to make the parts of a painting or another work of art hang together as whole throughout visual relatedness. For the information of everybody, unity doesn't necessarily apply to an entire work of art. It can also apply to an element or elements of a piece of work that could also contain other forms of expression. But unity always expresses a shared commonality within a painting or sculpture or textile. At the same time, unity is a tool in the kit of an artist that can be folded in as subtle color symmetries or involving complementary design elements in works to please the mind and tie together the disparate forms in a painting, whether abstract or realistic. Lastly, we have variety. It refers to the use of different qualities or instances of a visual elements. In other words, variety refers to how artists and designers add complexity to their work using visual elements. An example for this is the work of Pam Thompson. You notice all the different colors, lines, shape, and brushworks. The end result is pleasing and interesting to look. So that's all for my part. May I call the next reporter to continue the discussion.
Existing as influential figures within abstract art as well as various other art movements, a significant number of abstract painters are still spoken about today. Their numerous paintings have remained iconic pieces of art, which has led to some abstract artists standing out greatly. While many artists can be included within this ranking, we will now explore our top 10 list of abstract artists whose artworks and reputations have stood the test of time. So first is Wassily Kandinsky, 1866 to 1944. It considered to be the most famous abstract artist of all time. Russian painter Wassily Kandinsky was viewed as the leading pioneer of the entire abstract genre. Kandinsky initially studied law and economics before he gave up academics and began painting studies, which included life drawing, sketching, and anatomy depictions at the age of 30. Rising to fame during the 1910s, Kandinsky is remembered as a leading figure within the development of modern art, with his artwork existing as the earliest abstract painting to be produced. Third, Kazimir Malevich, 1878 to 1935. When considering influential Russian abstract artists who have helped define the movement, Kazimir Malevich is an important addition to the list. Malevich is mostly known for being the artist who paved the way of suprematism, which focused on basic geometric forms like circles, squares, rectangles, and lines that were painted with a limited choice of colors. As he experimented with this movement, he began to develop his use of radical abstractions, which leads to his artworks become important pieces within abstract art. Fourth, Georgia O'Keeffe, 1887 to 1986. One of the most prolific female abstract artists was Georgia O'Keeffe, who played a significant role in the development of American modernism and its relationship to avant-garde artistic movements in Europe. Throughout her career that spans 7 decades, O'Keeffe produced a substantial amount of work that attempt to capture the emotions and strength of objects through abstractions of the natural world. Fifth, Mark Rothko, 1903 to 1966, competing with fellow artists Jackson Pollock and Willem de Kooning for the title of the most celebrated abstract expressionist of all time, is Russian-American artist Mark Rothko. Remembered as an important member of the color-filled painting group, Rothko worked over his entire canvas with paint when creating artwork, as opposed to subjecting certain areas to gestural attacks. 6. Clifford Steele, 1904 to 1980. Another American artist on our list of abstract artists is Clifford Steele, who helped elevate abstract expressionism into the prominent art movement it became known as, although not as widely known as his New York School colleges. Steele was the first artist to push through to a modern and drastically abstract style in his artworks that were completely devoid of any and all obvious subject matter despite his acclaim. Steele was an infamously difficult individual to work with, who frequently rejected the New York art scene. He defied the majority of the critics' aim at his works, which led to him going to great lengths to control how his paintings were exhibited, collected, and even sold. 7. Willem de Kooning, 1904 to 1927. One of the most well-known abstract artists of all time was Dutch-American artist Willem de Kooning, who went on to establish a distinctly American style of painting in these artworks he created. At the age of 22, de Kooning arrived in New York City after traveling as a stowaway on a boat. He joined the Artists' Union in 1934 and began painting murals but had to step away from these projects as he was not a lawful citizen. De Kooning was only able to open up his own art studio after he received his citizenship, where he worked until he passed away. 8 is Franz Kline, 1910 to 1962. American artist Franz Kline was best known for his involvement within the abstract expressionist movement and was considered to be one of the greatest action painters of his time. Although he explored the same concepts in his artworks as other abstract artists, Kline's works remain incredibly distinct and well respected ever since the 1950s. Number 9 is Jackson Pollock, 1912 to 1956, one of the most iconic abstract painters of all time, whose name is synonymous with the entire abstract expressionist movement, is American artist Jackson Pollock. Inspired by the idea of spontaneous creations and energetic compositions, Pollock went on to develop one of the most notable art techniques to came out of the movement, known as drip painting. To produce his significant drip paintings, Pollock would drip, pour, and splash paint onto large canvases that were set up on the floor, allowing him complete access to the entire canvas. Lastly, Helene Frankenthaler, 1928-2012. Another prominent female on the list of abstract artists is American painter Helene Frankenthaler, who rose to fame during the abstract expressionist movement. Considered to be the one most influential painters to the 20th century, Frankenthaler invented a technique known as the sock scene technique that cemented her status as an astounding artist. Within this technique, Frankenthaler poured thin paint directly onto unprepared canvases and allowed the paint to seep through in order to produce luminous washes of color. Frankenthaler was seen as a unique abstract modern artist due to the focus she placed on natural landscapes, which she often emulated in her works.
At this moment, I am Catherine Lacerna and I will discuss the interpretation of art. Abstract art takes time to absorb. Part of our problem in appreciating abstract art is that we expect to get it immediately and don't give ourselves time to sit with it and absorb it. It takes time to absorb the meaning and emotion behind the work of abstract art. The slow art movement that is popular worldwide has brought attention to the fact that museum goers often move through museums very quickly, spending less than 20 seconds on an individual artwork and thereby missing much of what the artwork has to offer. So how to interpret abstract art? So there are 3 basic steps when interpreting any work of art. First, the description. So what is description? We can, in this type, we will ask ourselves, what do you see? State the obvious and then dig deeper. Identify the elements and principles of design that you see. So we will ask what are the colors? Are they warm or cool? Are they Saturated or unsaturated? What kind of lines are used? What shapes? Is it visually balanced? Does it have symmetrical or asymmetrical balance? And is there a repetition of certain elements? We have there the second basic step, which is interpretation. So in this step, we will ask ourselves what is the artwork trying to say? How do things you see and describe contribute to its message? How does it make you feel? Is this a rhythm or movement? Does it make you happy or sad? Doesn't it convey energy, or does it convey a sense of stillness and peace? Read the title of the painting. Can give you some insight into this meaning or intent. So we have the third basic step, which is evaluation. No? So in this step, we will ask ourselves, does it work? Are you moved by it in any way? Do you understand the artist's intent? Does it speak to you? Not every painting is going to speak to every person. As Pablo Picasso said, there is no abstract art. You must always start with something. Afterward, you can remove all traces of reality. Most abstract art starts with a common human experience. You might just have to spend some time with a painting to uncover what it is and what it means to you. A painting represents a unique conversation between the artist and a particular viewer. Although you don't have to know anything about the artist in order to be moved by a painting, it is likely that we, the viewer, with the greatest knowledge of the abstract artist and his or her background, will most appreciate and understand the artwork.
Hi everyone, for the continuation of the discussion, let's proceed to visual art. What do you mean by visual art? Well, these are the arts that meet the eye and evoke an emotion through an expression of skill and imagination. What does visual art include? Well, we have the fine art. All fine art belongs to the general category of visual arts. These include activities such as drawings, painting, printmaking, and sculpture, along with associated activities like graphic art, manuscript illumination, book illustration, calligraphy, and architecture. For the second one, we have the contemporary art. The visual arts also include a number of modern art forms such as assemblage, collage, mixed media, conceptual art, installation, happenings, and performance art, along with film-based disciplines such as photography, video art, and animation, or any combination thereof. This group of activities also includes high-tech disciplines like computer graphics and glossy prints. Another modern visual art is the new environmental or land art, which also includes transitory forms like ice or snow sculpture and graffiti art. We have the third one, which is the decorative arts and crafts. In addition, the general category of visual arts encompasses a number of decorative art disciplines and crafts, including the ceramics and studio pottery, mosaic art, mobiles, tapestry, glass art, and others. For the wider definition of visual arts, well, it sometimes includes applied art areas such as graphic design, fashion design, and interior design. In addition, the new types of body art may also fall under the general heading of scope of visual art. These include tattoo art, face painting, and body painting.
Good day everyone, I am Angel C. Payot and I will be the one to discuss about the topic, the principles of art. So we have principles of art. These are balance, emphasis, movement, proportion, rhythm, unity, and variety. The means an artist uses to organize elements within a work of art. These principles open our eyes to the beauty that is all around us. It is the building blocks of understanding and creating art, crafts, and designs. Just as the letters of any alphabet are fundamental to understanding that language, The elements and the principles of art are fundamental to understanding the language of art. So here we have rhythm. Rhythm means a principle of design that indicates movement created by the careful placement of repeated elements in a work of art to cause a visual tempo or beat that invites the eye to enter into the journey of the artist's soul displayed on the canvas, or to help the eye travel and reach its point of focus. Rhythm can be created by repeating a color, shape, texture, line, or space when designing, varying the size of objects, shapes, or lines in sequence, small to large, using a progression of colors from tints to shades, or light blue to dark blue, and shifting from one hue to a neighboring hue, yellow to yellow, orange to red. So examples where rhythm is created: the slant in the trees that are repeated, the angles of the lines and change in color in the graphic design, the pattern in this afghan and the progression of monochromatic colors, and the change in the shapes and gradation of color. So second is the balance. Balance means a way of combining elements to add feeling of equilibrium or stability to work of art. Major types are symmetrical and asymmetrical. So we have the symmetrical, or we call as formal balance. Is the simplest kind. An item that is symmetrically balanced is the same on both sides. So our bodies are an example of formal balance. If you draw an imaginary line from your head to your toes, dividing your body in half, you will be pretty much the same on both sides. So the other balance is the asymmetrical balance. It creates a feeling of equal weight on both sides. Even though the sides do not look the same, asymmetrical designs also are called informal designs because they suggest movement and spontaneity. Asymmetrical balance is the hardest type of balance to achieve and often takes experimenting or moving elements around until balance is achieved. So examples are the painting of Van Gogh, the Starry Starry Night, and the curated cake and a centerpiece. So the third one is emphasis or contrast, a way of combining elements to stress the differences between those elements. Every design needs an accent, a point of interest. Emphasis is the quality that draws your attention to a certain part of a design first. So there are several ways to create emphasis. Number one here is use a contrasting color. Second, use a different or unusual line. Third, make a shape very large or very small and use a different shape. And lastly, use plain background space. Another principle of art is the proportion. A proportion is a design that refers to the relationship of certain elements to the whole and to each other. It is a comparison between sizes, shapes, and quantities. For example, the relationship between the vertical and horizontal measurements of a wall hanging may be pleasing because the unequal lengths produce an interesting contrast. So, another one is the gradation, a way of combining elements by using series of gradual changes in those elements. So, large shapes to small shapes, dark hue to light hue, and etc. Examples are light changes slowly to dark, large becomes small, one color unfolds into another. So it's most commonly used to create perspective, to suggest form, or to generate visual movement. So another principle is the harmony, a way of combining similar elements in an artwork to accent their similarities, achieved through use of repetitions and subtle gradual changes. So harmony or unity is essential to the design of artwork because it gives the work a sense of cohesion. An image is a whole or complete when it is whole. As a whole, unity and harmony in art help make sense of compositions by trying it together and make it seem seamless. Examples of harmony in art are a painting which features mostly different tones of green or different tones of blue. Pablo Picasso's The Old Guitarist is united by the dull blue tones used in the painting. Another principle of art is a variety. A variety is a principle of design concerned with the diversity or contrast. Variety is achieved by using different shapes, sizes, and colors in a work of art. Variety can be found in nature or made. It can be used to break up monotonous or repetitive areas. Examples of variety in art are straight lines next to curvy lines and add variety. Organic shapes among geometric shapes add variety. Bright colors next to dull colors add variety. We use variety to make drawing or painting more interesting. We use this to catch the viewer's attention. And lastly is the movement. The movement of a principle of design used to create the look and feeling of action and to guide the viewer's eye throughout the work of art. So movement is essential in a piece of art. It is the illusion of motion caused by some elements not being completely static in work. Movement can be achieved with several artistic techniques including color, shape, pattern, and line. The movement shows us that things are happening whether fast or slow or right. The principle of art movement help us understand each other and enjoy the many different types of beauty that we see. There are three types of movement: the physical movement, the juxtaposition, and the moving the viewer's eye. That's all, and thank you.
And now let's proceed for the elements of art. The first one is the color. The color is one of the elements of an art made of three properties, which is the hue, value, and intensity. For the hue is the name of color like red, green, blue, and for the value is whose lightness and darkness is a color value changes when white or black is added. For the intensity, the quality of the brightness and purity. If it is high intensity, the color is strong and bright. If it is low intensity, the color is faint and dull.
The psychological meaning of colors. The meaning of colors can vary depending on culture and circumstances. Each color has many aspects to it, but you can easily learn the language of color by understanding a few simple concepts which I will teach you here. Color is a form of non-verbal communication. It is not static energy, and its meaning can change from one day to the next day with any individual. It all depends on what energy they are expressing at that point in time. For example, a person may choose to wear red on a particular day, and this may indicate any one or more of the psychological meanings of the color red, including the following. Okay, let's have first the red. Red is the color of energy, passion, action, ambition, and determination. It is also the color of anger and sexual passion. You know that the red color helps to enhance muscles, strengthen the body, increase the blood pressure, accelerate pulse, blood circulation, excretion or adrenaline, and hepatic function. So that is the psychological meaning of the red color. And next is the orange color. Orange color is the color of social communication and optimism. From a negative color meaning, it is also a sign of pessimism and superficiality. And you know that the orange color can help to strengthen the lungs, spleen, and pancreas. It stimulates the heart, reproductive organs, digestion, raises appetite, and increases the body's resistance. Under its influence, body fluids are excreted. Otherwise, it gives a sense of pleasantness, joy, and well-being. It is the color of happiness, sociability, and satisfaction. It helps to overcome fatigue and gives new strength, stimulates the body and psyche with vitality, joy, warmth, playfulness, emotion. So that is the psychological meaning of color of the orange color. Next is the yellow. Yellow is the color of the mind and the intellect. It is optimistic and cheerful. However, it can also suggest impatience, criticism, and cowardice. Yellow also increases blood pressure, accelerates pulse, increases breathing rate, has a beneficial effect on the nervous system, liver, pancreas, and gallbladder. It cleans the digestive tract. Yellow is the color of sun, light, and heat. It encourages, activates, and is playful, then maintains alertness, promotes concentration and motor skills. It is the color of happiness and joy. Yellow is a mental stimulant. So that is the psychological meaning of the color yellow. Next color is the green. Green is the color of balance and growth. It can mean both self-reliance as a positive and possessiveness as a negative, among many other meanings. Green color expands capillaries and regulates blood circulation, reduces pressure, calms the nervous system, relaxes muscles, establishes personal balance. It is the color of relaxation, balance, and harmony with nature. Within us, it works pleasant and calming, refreshes and heals. Can be used as sedative and hypnotic agents. So that is the psychological meaning of the color green. Next color is the blue. Blue is the color of trust and peace. It can suggest loyalty and integrity as well as conservatism and frigidity. You know that blue color helps to calm the heart rate, increasing breathing rhythm, narrows blood vessels, prevents inflammation, maintains dense bone marrow, soothes and calms the pain. Blue can be emotionally sedative, so that is the psychological meaning of the color blue. Next color is indigo. Indigo is the color of intuition. In the meaning of colors, it can mean idealism and structure, as well as ritualistic and addictive. The next color is the purple. Purple is the color of the imagination. It can be creative and individual or immature and impractical. Next color is the turquoise. Turquoise is a communication and clarity of mind. It can also be impractical and idealistic. The next color is pink. Pink is unconditional love and nurturing. Pink can also be immature, silly, and girlish. The next color is magenta. Magenta is the color of universal harmony and emotional balance. It is spiritual yet practical, encouraging common sense and a balanced outlook on life. The next color is brown. Brown is a friendly yet serious, down-to-earth color that relates to security, protection, comfort, and material wealth. Next color is gray. Gray is the color of compromise, being neither black nor white. It is the transition between two non-colors. It is unemotional and detached and can be indecisive. Next color is silver. Silver has a feminine energy. It is related to the moon and the ebb and the flow of the tides. It is fluid, emotional, sensitive, and mysterious. The next color is gold. Gold is the color of success, achievement, and triumph. Associated with abundance and prosperity, luxury and quality, prestige and sophistication, value and elegance, the color psychology of gold implies affluence, material wealth, and extravagance. Next color is white. White is the color as its most complete and pure, the color of perfection. The color meaning of white is purity, innocence, wholeness, and completion. And lastly, the black color. Black is the color of the hidden, the secretive and the unknown, creating an air of mystery. It keeps things bottled up inside, hidden from the world.